Under the Safe Workplaces for Meat and Poultry Processing Workers Act, the Commissioner appointed a Workers' Rights Coordinator within the Department of Labor and Industry. This position is to ensure the safety and rights of the meat processing workers. On May 2023, the Governor signed Chapter 53, which includes amendments to the Packing House Workers' Bill of Rights and to the Recruitment and Food Processing Employment Law. This new legislation also introduced the Safe Workplaces for Meat and Poultry Processing Workers Act. These new changes took effect on January 1, 2024. The coordinator's duties include enforce the Act, inspect the facilities, review and recommend improvements to the practice and procedures of Minnesota meat packaging operations, submit an annual report, notify employers of the laws and updates. A meat processing employer must grant the Department of Labor and Industry full access to all meat packaging operations in the state at any time that meat packaging products are being processed or meat processing workers are on the job. Workers' Rights Coordinator will also oversee the Packing House Workers' Bill of Rights and the Recruitment and Food Processing Employment Law. This slide briefly covers the amended Packing House Workers' Bill of Rights. Employers are required to provide employees at the start of their employment with certain information about their rights and responsibilities, both verbally and in writing and in their native language. This information includes a description of salary, benefits, job responsibilities, leave policies, work hours, and occupational hazards, as well as workers' compensation information. Sample notice in English and in Spanish can be found on our website. This slide briefly covers the amended recruitment of food processing employment. Employers are required to provide written disclosure of the terms and conditions of an employment to a person at the time the person is recruited to relocate to Minnesota or within Minnesota to work in food processing by an offer of an employment or of the possibility of an employment. The requirements under this statute are in addition to those under 181.032 Notice to Employee. Sample notice in English and in Spanish can be found on our website. We will now transition to the Safe Workplace for Meat and Poultry Processing Workers Act. A meat processing worker, or simply worker, is someone who works with raw meat products in a meat packaging operation. This includes independent contractors, temporary workers, and those who inspect, package, clean, maintain, or sanitize equipment or surface. Government inspectors are not considered meat processing workers. An employer is a meat packaging or poultry processing site with 10 or more employees in Minnesota. And NAICS codes from 311.611 to 311.615, excluding NAICS code 311.613. It does not include meat packaging products for immediate consumption or for sale or otherwise directly to an end consumer. Meat processing employers are required to provide workers with written information and notification concerning their rights under this law. This information must be provided in the worker's language of fluency at least once a year. If a worker is unable to understand the written material, the employer must verbally provide this information and notification in the worker's language of fluency. Sample notice in English, Spanish, Hmong, Somali, and Russian can be found on our website. Meat processing employers must form a committee with a certified professional ergonomics, a board-certified physician, and facility workers to create and implement an ergonomics program. If either of the professionals is not available, the program must be reviewed by them every year before implementation. Employers are required to provide safety training to workers who are assigned new tasks and must offer refresher training on the new tasks within 30 days. These trainings must be provided in a language the workers can understand. Meat processing employers must provide workers with at least 8 hours of safety training each year covering relevant health and safety topics. At least 2 hours of this training must cover the facility's ergonomics injury prevention program, The training must be provided in a language the workers can understand. Employers must ensure minimum qualifications for medical service providers engaged by the employer. Employers cannot discourage employees from reporting injuries, hazards, or safety violations. Employers must provide certain protections during any future peacetime public health emergency. A meat processing worker has the right to refuse to work under dangerous condition in accordance with Minnesota State Statute 182.654, Subdivision 11, and the employee must continue to receive pay without being subject to discrimination. Retaliation. Retaliation against workers for exercising their rights under the law is prohibited. Enforcement. The Department of Labor and Industry may issue a compliance order requiring an employer to comply with certain provisions of the law. The Department of Labor and Industry can also order a stop work or business closure if there's a practice that can result in death or serious physical harm. Private right of action. If an employer does not comply with the law, an aggrieved worker, union representative, or other person may file a lawsuit within 3 years of an alleged violation. Under certain conditions, a whistleblower lawsuit can be commenced. Relief. In a civil action or administrative proceeding brought to enforce the Act requires a court or the Department of Labor and Industry to order relief as provided on the slide. A list of resources are provided for employers and employees.